Good evening, everyone. I'd just like to state a chairman's note that this meeting is being recorded. Without objection, the chair of the Board of Selectmen will facilitate item 4 on the agenda, with the understanding that the FAA chair will chair the FAA committee concurrently, including any allowable discussions, questions, business or motions requested or required under item 4. Call the meeting to order at 6:44 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. Item 2 on the agenda, citizen comments on anything that's not on the agenda. If any citizens have any comments on anything that's not on the agenda. Seeing none, move to number 3, capital improvement chair or designee, updated capital improvement plan, and for the Board of Selectmen to vote to approve or not after the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Capital improvement just met about half an hour ago. 2 items were added to the capital plan. We have the new playground was updated for I believe it was 709. I'll get you exact number.
704-410.
4410.
704-410.
704-4410. So that was updated on the capital plan for fiscal year 2025, and the Eagle Drive project. A lot of the items that are coming up for fiscal year 25 on that. So that was about 907, Mr. Ruda?
Now, the capital, let me give you this.
Yeah, that's right. Good. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, so we updated the capital plan for that for fiscal year 25 at $906,000.
26.
$926,000.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, the recommendation is to ask the Board of Selectmen if there are any questions, or if there are any questions, certainly answer them, to add that to the capital improvement plan for the town for FY25.
Just for FY25.
Correct.
Does the board have any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, none. Do you want to entertain a motion to accept those 2 items to add it to the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2025?
And it would be better, Mr. Chairman, to do it separately, both individual.
2 different motions.
Yeah.
So a motion for the $704,410 for the playground for fiscal year 2025 being added to the current capital improvement plan.
So moved.
Second.
Got a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. The second one will be for the $926,000 fiscal year 25 Eagle Drive. Do we have a motion to accept that as an add-on to the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 25?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Got a
You got
first?
it, Karen.
We'll trade off, trying to help you out here, Mr.
Sure.
Chairman.
Thank you.
So moved.
Do we have a first? Do we have a second? And a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Beautiful. So now we'll move to item number 4, joint meeting with FAA to review options for supplemental budget, borrowing options pending $600,000 Eagle Drive grant, planning engineering grant, ongoing mitigation compliance costs, FAA recommendations, final supplemental amounts, and use of free cash, which would be a discussion, then the final vote, supplemental budgets, articles, FAA votes, FAA recommendations, and supplemental budget articles, Board of Selectmen votes on recommendations each. article or take any other action relative thereto. So if you would like to go, Chairman Matt.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to the town administrator to go over the, some of these supplemental budget amounts and what we intend to do with these, just kind of for background.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, there's just a few things that we have to do tonight. One of them is, at the last meeting, we were discussing whether we wanted to pull the regulatory compliance component out of the free cash, or if we wanted to borrow for it. And in doing so, we would also borrow for the $600,000 engineering and design grant that we anticipate getting from DEP. The pro to doing that is, of course, we won't be cash strapped. We'll be able to borrow for it with the potential of a $600,000 grant, which I feel really good about on the horizon to pay for it. And the con is that we're borrowing for it and would be paying interest on it, but I don't see that as an obstacle. We've done that in the past in order to preserve the budget and our ability to remain solid enough to operate for the year. We did that last year. Rich just borrowed for the money for $297,000 to cover expenses that were approved at town meeting the previous fiscal year for the Eagle Drive project. The $600,000 part of the borrowing is for engineering and design and everything related to get us to the point where we're a shovel-ready project on Eagle Drive, so we can move forward with putting a permanent solution to that issue over there, that mitigation issue, which is, of course, a water line. So I've added that to the draft warrant in the form of a borrowing article. We just approved it on capital and for the capital improvement committee. We went over it about half an hour ago. And that is Article Article 9.
Article 9 or 8?
Printed copy.
8?
Yeah, it was just updated. So that's-
Go ahead.
So we did submit for free cash certification Friday afternoon. Sarah put that in. I'm still going with the conservative amount that we talked about last time of $180,000 until we actually get it back, but everyone we've spoken to has said $180,000 is a good number, conservative number to work from. We should get certified for at least that, and perhaps up to 200, 220 range. So in doing that, we would leave $86,000 in free cash, and which leads us to our second deliberation for tonight, which is whether or not we want to deposit that amount of free cash into stabilization, or if we want to leave it at the bottom line. If we deposit it into stabilization, I have a draft article here tonight, if anybody wants to see it, that we would just simply add to the warrant.
Okay.
It's pulled off of the warrant you have in front of you does not have that on there, the deposit into stabilization. The pro to putting into stabilization is that we'd be able to invest it and earn some interest on it for the next less than a year. The con is that it would require 2/3. There's a couple of draft articles. It would require 2/3 to pull it back out of stabilization in May if we needed to use it and apply it to the budget if we ran short. 2/3 majority would have to vote to pull it back out of stabilization.
Okay.
So if we did make a deposit into stabilization, we could do it based on what our conservative estimate of 86,000 left in free cash, and whatever was actually certified, which we believe will be more than 180, would remain there as free cash, and that amount, whether it's 20 or 40, whatever the case may be, would be available in the spring.
Okay.
It's really up to the preference of the FAA and the Board of Selectmen.
Does anybody have any questions for John at all?
So what was the amount you wanted to put into stabilization?
So we have a balance now. If we borrow the money for Eagle Drive, we have a balance of about 86,000
In free cash?
in free cash, based on a conservative number of 180.
Okay.
Certification could be a little bit more than that, but it won't be substantially more.
And you want to move all of that into stabilization to invest it?
We could do that. We could move that into stabilization. Or we could let it remain as free cash, and when we get into May, if there's anything unpaid or any budget line items that have run negative, we could use that to do a transfer out from free cash and back into the budget in May. So it's really whatever the preferences of the FAA and the Board of Selectmen.
All right. Any other questions? Rich, I was gonna just call you up.
Good evening. A little better. Good evening. If you put the money in the stabilization, the interest earned stays with the stabilization account. If you don't put it in the stabilization account, it still earns interest. So it's not like it's sitting in a coffee can under the desk. We're still earning interest on it. The idea that you could add to your stabilization as opposed to waiting for it to sort of cycle through to next year's free cash. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You will still get interest on it. It's how you wish.
So expand upon that a little bit, Rich. Stabilization is about what in interest rate right now? What is your?
They're both very competitive right now. You're a whisper under 5 for the MMDT, and the stabilization is going to earn a very similar competitive amount. It's just one is liquid, one is not. Interest for your stabilization stays with stabilization. So in theory, you could earn $100 in interest on whatever you put in there and pull it out and spend it the next month at a regularly scheduled town meeting, as opposed to having it just cycle out as being investment earnings aggregated throughout the year.
So essentially, really, the difference is
There's a-
how many votes it takes to move the money around, really, basically?
I was not going to insinuate that. I wanted
Well, I mean,
just, I wanted to verbalize that we're earning interest,
Okay.
whether it's in that specific account or not. The rates are pretty competitive, so.
Okay. I did have one other question. Maybe you can kind of give us a kind of a breakdown. So if we're financing the Eagle Drive amounts, can you kind of give us a breakdown? How does that look in terms of your financing? What's it look like? I mean, what's the borrowing term on something like that?
Whatever we'd like to do. If it's engineering costs, the 297's a good example. That fell under 5 years. That was a catch-all. That was an immediate response action and a mix of items in there, and it sort of fell to, okay, we can borrow for it, and it's in this 5-year range. If you were to put a pipe in the ground, it's a different set of, it goes by the useful life. So depending on what you're doing with it, you have your authorization. If you borrow all of the money day 1 and you get notification on day 2 that that you've received the grant, you have the ability to pay that money down or not continue it. I mean, it's not a home equity line of credit. You would have borrowed the money for the year, but you know in year 2, you would not need to go through and finance what you had already received as a grant. So it's a placeholder. You don't need to spend every penny of it, but if you absolutely needed to, as soon as organizationally possible, you could have that 926 available to do something. Once you have your authorization, you could spend money the next day and run the deficit as far as the cash flow went, so that when the 926 came in, you'd be filling the negative. So it's, having the approval gives you that flexibility to go through and do it.
And you reflect that payment, whatever that be, in your debt service budget item?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So that's where it goes. So it's
In a-
not debt
in-
excluded?
Mr.
Not tax
Chairman,
excluded?
in a perfect scenario, if you knew you had the potential of a $600,000 grant, you could borrow that $600,000 for 90 days or 120 days, whenever the expected grant award would be deposited in the town's account. So it's very useful. So, yes. Payment terms are how we make them, within reason. You want it, if we had that flexibility for 6 months, knowing that there was a grant award on its way, perfect. You don't need to borrow it for a long period of time. You can also borrow everything in expectation of paying it off over 5 years and working things that way. We're not even close to being up to our debt limit.
Yeah, I know.
If that's the question, going up to the percentage of the valuation, so there's room for that. It's anticipated there's going to be a larger project coming. Likely that's going to be a 20-year offering. Going to pay off over $1 million.
Right.
So,
Okay. Does anybody have any I guess it would be the same question for financing on the park balance.
that, a little bit different. You have a grant award.
Right.
However you'd want to work the grant award for a borrowing, you may borrow in anticipation of monies coming in, monies guaranteed by the state or the federal government. And then it would just be that one portion of what the town had put in. And again, there's an X factor on it because there is fundraising going on. So how much in cash, how much in fundraising would you expect to borrow? Again, not knowing the specific, 5 years for that dollar amount.
Okay. Any questions for Rich? Anybody? Go ahead,
I
Robin.
kind of have a general question. I don't know whether it's for Rich or for everybody. So getting back to moving, the option to move some free cash into stabilization. Can the stabilization piece be a higher risk, so the interest is better than what you're getting in free cash? Otherwise, I don't see a point in moving it.
It's very conservative.
There's one component of the trust funds in the town of Dudley where you're buying equity positions, and it's probably 15%, 20%, and it's on the legal list of investments. So we're not out there too far. We're supplementing what we're getting for, 5%. There's money markets out there. There's probably a corporate bond that pays above that because of a timing, or we had an opportunity to do so. The investment's not done in the house. Nothing's going to be appreciably better.
And Rich, while you're up there, a lot of the items that we had discussed last week regarding using free cash, a lot of these items for the supplemental budget, looks like we're gonna do maturing debt Also, you have a reduction in your maturing debt budget?
Correction. Yep.
68,000 and 22,000?
The aforementioned 297,000 for the immediate response action. The plan was to do some end-of-year borrowing. The hopes always was the Fed is going to lower the rate, the Fed is going to lower the rate. The second shoe never fell, and it was a matter of, well, we've borrowed it. Really, I hate to say the drop-dead date, but the substantial date was to have everything settled before September 30th. So it didn't count against, the negative didn't count against the free cash. We added St. Anthony's onto the same borrowing, and for a different term, the police cruiser. There's the fourth item out of the public safety that had been debt excluded. So if we've borrowed it in fiscal '25, we won't have a payment until fiscal '26, because we held it out for a year. So it's a timing issue. What might have been, or what was planned on being a June 15th, for argument's sake, borrowing date, got moved forward 60 days. So instead of borrowing the money in year one, we're now in year two, and we've borrowed the money for repayment in year three.
Any questions on that with Rich?
I have a question on the article. What is that $1 in parentheses?
Let's take a look at the article. Is this the stabilization article?
Oh, that's just that article is just a draft, to give you an
It's just a
idea as
draft.
to
We
what
have
we
to
would
insert
add
the
back
dollar
in.
numbers in there if we were gonna do it.
Yeah, we would add the numbers in and fix that. That was just to give you an idea as to what we would propose for an article. And we could talk through it at this meeting if you wanted me to put it back on the warrant.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Rich regarding any of this? All right. I'll call up Sarah. Is there something you wanted to speak about tonight, or?
I wasn't planning on it.
Okay, that's fine. No, I just didn't know, if you wanted to speak on anything. I guess we don't know total free cash numbers. Do you have any rough idea?
I'm with John, we met earlier today, the conservative one is the 180, and, where it goes from there. They're evaluating all the information here.
It's been submitted to DOR, and it's gonna fall within $20,000 of that, probably. We just don't know, we don't have an exact number, so we might as well go with the conservative one, because it's not gonna be, I don't think we're gonna get surprised and get an extra $500,000 without knowing it, right? We're still gonna be within the
That'd be nice.
$30,000 certified amount. Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so you want to take these one article at a time, Mr. Chairman? Go through them one
We
article
can
at a
do
time?
that, that's what you want.
So
It's up to you.
So we'd be looking for the FAA to vote their recommendations by article number tonight. We still have one more opportunity to meet, but I have to tell you, if we meet on the 7th, we literally have to get it done in the first 10 minutes, because we're gonna be right that close to the threshold of posting. So if we can do it tonight, that would be even better.
Okay. All right, so we'll go with article. Do we need an FAA vote on Articles 1 and 2? The general, Article 1?
It's gonna, everyone,
It's a Board of Selectmen.
I think FAA usually votes on that. They hear,
We could.
Selectmen for hearing committee recommendations.
All right, does anybody want to make a motion on Article 1 for recommendation?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 1.
Okay. Where's my glasses? Do we have a second on Article 1? Second, okay. Any discussion on Article 1? Pretty much a housekeeping article. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye, okay. Article 2 is the budget, supplemental budget, so the items that are on this supplemental budget, we've already kind of gone over them on our last meetings. Planning clerk salary, $4,500. That's going to go to maturing debt. Town administrative expenses, $1,176.80. Maturing debt. Vacation buyback of the $5,000. Maturing debt. HR expenses, $2,500. Maturing debt. Is this new, John? The FAA reserve?
5,000 more to FAA reserve.
Okay. We didn't discuss that, but anybody have any objections to putting? We're already at 20 in that now?
We're at 20, but now that we've agreed to borrow the money for the Eagle Drive, I figured we'd stick more in FAA reserve just to be on the safe side. We freed up that free cash.
Okay. So that'll bring FAA reserve up to 25,000.
Yep.
Education accounting, $1,400. Help desk was $6,000. Assessor's expenses, $600. And assessor's education, $500. Out of district student transportation, $28,627. Fiber maintenance, $9,800, and the youth services librarian for $9,500. Those are all maturing debt. The only free cash amount would be the employee merit pool. Does anybody want to make a motion on adding those to the supplemental budget? Or have any questions on any of these individually before we take a vote?
Make a motion to
Okay.
approve Article number 2.
Okay. Do we have a second? Any discussion?
Is that a question?
Sure.
So we have right now $86,420 in free cash, and you're asking to use that 20,000 of that for the employee merit pool?
No. We're estimating free cash at 180. We're gonna use 20,000 in free cash for the employee merit pool. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm gonna add 3 more things for free cash that I didn't list. And if we want to make a re-motion on that. So the assessor recert, the 15,000 to do the recertifications will be free cash. Retirement liability to fund that would be 55,000 free cash, and we have some unpaid bills. I believe that is Article 3 anyway. Would be used for free cash. So total free cash we'd be using would be 73,508.18.
Can you say that number one more time?
Plus the 20,000, John? Is that?
That's correct.
Plus the 20,000, 20,071 for the merit pool. So those 4 things would be funded with free cash. So total,
Leaving a balance of 86.
leaving the balance of 86,420 in free cash as of today. So I apologize for not including those. Does anybody want to remake your motion on that, Joan?
To include this,
Yeah, to include what I just read on free cash.
I'll amend my motion to include the free cash for assessor's research, retirement liabilities, and unpaid bills.
Okay, good. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Now, do we have any more questions on that at all? No? Okay. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, so supplemental budget is recommended by the FAA. Article 3 is the unpaid bills. Those were totaling $3,508.18. I know we discussed them at our last meeting. Does anyone want to make a motion on this?
I make a motion to accept Article 3.
All right, is there a second? Okay, any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, Article 3 is recommended. So, is Article 4, John, this is to establish the fund for the retirement liability? Is that what this says here?
Article 4 establishes it, and Article 5 funds it.
All right, do you need a motion from FAA, a recommendation on Article 4 from FAA?
Well,
On
if
that?
FAA believes it's a good financial move, then they should.
Well, we gotta fund it, so, does anybody, well, I'll actually call for a motion then. Does anybody wanna make a motion on Article 4?
So again, just to remind Mr. Chairman, the purpose of Article 4 is to establish a fund, a reserve, so that when we have people retiring, instead of scrambling to take it, at the last minute from departmental budgets, over the course of time, we try to estimate the amount that we'll need based on who may be retiring in the near future. So it doesn't kill us all in one year. We really scrambled at the end of last fiscal year and kind of a little bit at the beginning of
Yeah,
this.
we did a lot of transfers last year,
So
so.
I'll work with Sarah and we'll enrich and we'll work to, when we know there's a retirement coming up, we'll try to fund it accordingly. And we may even do some policy adjustments that go along with it.
Okay, so does anyone want to make a motion to establish the compensated absences reserve?
I'll make a motion to establish Article 4.
Okay. Second, okay, any discussion? Robin, nothing? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, Article 4 is recommended. Article 5 is to actually fund the reserve account. That would be, as we discussed earlier, the retirement liabilities of $55,000 from free cash. Does anybody want to make a motion to fund the compensated absences reserve for $55,000? Your turn, Robin.
I make a motion to fund the compensated absences reserve for $55,000 as written in Article 5.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Just so that everyone's aware of it, in funding that, this year, we will probably spend 45 to 50 of it for someone who's retiring this month. Just so there's next year, nobody gets alarmed when they see that it's gone down by $50,000. That's what it's gonna be used for. And then we'll take it from there, we'll continue next year, we'll put more money in.
All right, any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll call vote. All in favor for Article 5? What is it? Yeah, Article 5? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so recommend Article 5. Article 6 is the cyclical inspections, property value inspections for the $15,000. Does anybody want to make a motion? This comes from free cash. Make a motion on Article 6.
I make a motion that we approve Article 6, cyclical inspections.
Okay. Anybody want to second that?
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this? Okay, seeing none, call vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye, all right, recommended. Article 7 is the playground grant, in funding for the playground. Its total amount is $704,410. This is gonna be maturing debt for this, to fund this with grants already been awarded on this. So, does anybody want to make a motion on Article 7?
Is that actually Article 8? Did I
Is it?
skip something?
I have in mind Article 7, but
Okay.
Recreation
Yeah,
Committee
just got
article?
it. Oh, you know what, I have a different article, a different set of papers.
Oh,
It should be the Recreation Commission.
yeah, so it's Article 7, Recreation Commission. Do you have an article for Recreation Commission somewhere on there? And they might have been renumbered. Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion on that? Okay.
If you make a motion, then it can be.
We can discuss
discussed
it
in
in
the motion.
discussion if you want to make the motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept Article 7 as written about the playground grant for $704,410.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we got a second. Okay, so discussion.
Yes.
Question.
I have a couple questions. So there's a splash pad there.
Going to be, yep.
Yeah. Who's paying for that water, and how much water is gonna be consumed, especially when there's a drought and residents who are on town water can't use water between when, I don't know, 7 and 9 PM or whatever the hours might be?
I guess the question was, yeah, that's a good question. How much exact water? Well, obviously, you're not going to know until you actually use it. I don't know. John, you want to?
You've done as much research.
I know.
Could it be like a car wash where it
Yeah, we could just wash
Well,
cars up there and
One
charge.
thing is that if nobody's using it, it doesn't run all day. You know that for certain.
You know,
Okay, well, that's good.
I actually, I can't remember the number, but when this came
I thought
up,
it was 25,000 gallons, and I'll tell you, my hot tub takes 500 gallons. So 25,000 is a tremendous amount of water.
I'm going to ask, yeah, I think Scott, I'm going to bring Scott up because I think he's done, I did a little bit of research on it. I called the, I can't remember the name of them, but from the handles Oxford and the Carbuncle Park. They kind of gave me a rough idea of what they spend. It didn't really seem to be very much at all, so, but Scott,
At our current water rates, it would cost approximately $60,000 a season.
$60,000.
And figuring that for between Memorial Day and Labor Day, that's about $270 a day for the amount of water that would be flowing on an active day.
For a step-on splash pad?
It's a lot of water. There are other questions. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about funding at this point.
Yeah.
There are questions that are going to have to be answered during engineering in order to
No,
go forward with it anyway, so.
you know, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of it, but when we did speak on, I told you about Carbuncle Pond, I gave you kind of a number they gave us.
I hung around there as a little
Very
kid.
little.
There was no splash pad then, but
Well, no, but when I gave you that number, what they gave me from theirs, which I thought would be a lot bigger than what we're gonna have. The cubic volume there from, I think it was like from June 15th when they turned it on to, they shut it off Labor Day, was, that cubic volume, when I mentioned to you, you said there was hardly any water. So was there some other kind of,
I can't remember.
Information?
I can't remember the number of gallons that's rated on.
it didn't seem like it
I believe it was
was,
250,000 gallons or something.
it was very low. It didn't seem like it would be,
It-
like
it-
even, you know.
It's expensive now to treat the water. Because that is treated water, that's not just, coming out of the ground. It is treated, it's got chlorine in it and everything else, which has,
Local have that because they have like the pond there, and I think they charge a fee
No, they
for
did.
people to use it.
and there are questions about where that water's gonna go when it's done. Because it can't go on the ground because it's
It has to
treated.
go into a sanitary sewer, we know that.
Goes into
But
the
that's part of
sewer,
your,
then-
that's part of our plan, right?
Then that's an added cost, but
I hadn't heard anywhere near 60,000.
Yeah, I just, like you say, I mean, you might quite possibly be, but I,
we
like
got the
say,
number, we got the number of gallons from the Recreation Commission, who got it from Vortex, who I guess is the splash pad company. And that's their estimates, and then we took those numbers and pushed them against our rates.
yeah. Okay.
But that's, again, that's not part of this article here today, is whether or not to
Right,
fund
yeah, yeah, and I don't want to get off topic too much,
It's,
but just trying to
there's a whole
answer.
lot of engineering that still has to be done before it gets built, so.
I'll also mention, Mr. Chairman, the good news is, we don't lose the grant if it comes back at $60,000 a season. I mean, we'll pull the splash pad off off the plan. It's very simple to do. And it doesn't, we won't lose the playground, the ability to get the playground. We discussed that, but when we discussed it, it wasn't anywhere near 60 grand. I could be wrong.
I just,
You know, and if
when
it
I
is
see
60
this
grand,
is a
it's,
two-thirds vote at the town meeting,
yeah.
and people see this cost, I think they may not all agree to
Problem.
fund it. But if you tell them that the water only runs, if you tell them that the water will only be running when the children are there, and, you know, if it gets to be an excessive cost, then we turn that feature off. I think it's gonna be a beautiful playground.
And I think it's important.
We'll just turn the water meter off at the building.
And I think, Mr. Chairman, it's important to realize that it's a big cost, but there's also $500,000 in reimbursement, which comes off that cost. There was a citizen petition a year or two ago for a playground, and it was $380.
Yeah,
And this nets out to be
less than that.
140 grand less than that, so. With the grant, where it's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember a number around 300,000 or 400,000, and then I see 700,000, and it's like, where did that number come from?
Well, it's
So
a
that's-
much
that
bigger,
comes
better
from
playground,
adding
and
a
we get the
splash
grant
pad.
funding, so,
Okay.
but hopefully.
We will crunch the numbers to be sure that
Yeah,
they're accurate before town meeting.
Yeah,
so that we can have
I hope so,
accurate
because like I said, when I got the cubic volume from Carbuncle, which I think would have been bigger than this and more attended over there, it, you know, it was kind of minuscule.
And I would
you know.
agree, 60 grand is way.
It does-
If it's 60 grand,
It's way up there.
We just crunched the numbers yesterday. We'll make sure that they're correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good thing we didn't do that.
Yes, sir.
Question, Mr. Town Administrator, can we, let's say if someone, town meeting, people are nervous about the splash pad and it basically costing a salary a year to have it. Is it too late to pull out the splash pad and put something else in its place?
No, this is one of the things we discussed throughout the build-out, was that if the splash pad became an issue, at first I was the Grinch and I was against any water features because I thought that we'd get an announcement like this that, you know, everybody go crazy over. So if we need to pull it, we'll pull it. And there's no problem and no back drill doing that. We could go down to a misting station instead of a splash pad, or we can eliminate it altogether if we need to.
So basically, if people at town meeting, like Ms. Watson said, don't want the splash pad, there could be a motion saying this with the stipulation that there's no splash pad. People could do that, correct?
We could do that.
I guess what I'm saying is I just want to get this out in the open and not have this be a question at town meetings so that people will know that don't throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. This is a great opportunity with a grant and what have you, instead of focusing on the splash pad. If it's an issue, throw that out and put something in its place. Like you said, a misting station, maybe those willow tree little tunnel deals, something.
There are other options, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
I don't plan to be someone who's gonna complain about that at the town meeting. I'm just anticipating. I can picture people in the audience saying something like that.
Well, I would if I were in the audience and I heard 60 grand over, you know, I would
Oh, I wasn't pointing at
Probably-
you,
No, I
I
know
was
it, but I
taking
just
what
wanted
be
you
a little
said.
concerned about it too.
Who's gonna complain about it?
Oh, 60 grand, I imagine that they'd be more than one person standing up to.
Well, you just shut off the water, so.
But then why have it if you
Yeah,
don't
that's true.
use it?
Right.
Buy that brand new car and just have it sit in the driveway, covered in plastic, why even buy it?
Yeah. All right, well, we have a motion on the floor here for Article 7. Is there any more discussion regarding it? Okay, so call vote. All in favor? Aye? Aye. All right. 7 is passed. Article 8 is all the mitigation, engineering, and design for the Eagle Road water. The total amount comes up to $926,000. The source of funding is going to be maturing debt on this. with potentially an anticipated grant. What did you say, 600,000, John?
600,000, that's right.
On this, to help defray the cost here. Does anybody want to make a motion on Article 8 for the engineering for 926? Anybody?
I make a motion, we approve Article 8 for the mitigation, engineering, and design for Eagle Drive and Fairview Avenue at a cost of $926,000.
Okay. Any, oh, you got a second? Oh, sorry about that. Any discussion on this at all? Any questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, any opposed? No? All right. Article 9 is the Water Department. It's a transfer of $100,000, broken down to $40,000 in the water overtime account, $28,000 to the water standby account, $12,000 to the water primary operator, and $10,000 to the secondary water operator, and another $10,000 to the water operator account. Anybody want to make a motion on Article 9?
Make a motion to accept Article 9.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on this? You know, in our last meeting, we did ask Jen about this a little bit, but I don't think she's still here, but, is there any?
In anticipation of
Yeah.
collective bargaining.
Okay. Is there any questions at all? All right. Seeing none, call a vote. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that. Let's see. Article 10 is the betterment. John, you don't need a recommendation on Article 10, right?
So the work has been, we approved a betterment order for St. Anthony Road at a previous town meeting. The work has been completed. There's a betterment order in place, and right now, it's time to accept the road. It's been brought up to specs. It's ready to go.
So this is not a financial article for us to recommend? Just a Board of Selectmen article? All right. Article 11 is the animal bylaw. Was this being pulled, or was this still in, John?
The one that was, no, the animal bylaw remains. The one that was being pulled was the noise ordinance bylaw. But town council suggested after discussion with the Attorney General's office, the only change that really needed to be made for the noise ordinance when we get to it is to change the time from 7:30 at night to 9 o'clock at night, because there's been no case law where they've been able to enforce restriction at 7 o'clock, but 9 o'clock has always seemed to pass the legal sniff test, so.
Okay.
You know, it was just a matter of, do we wait until May to do it, or do it now? It's literally just a time change, so it didn't make any difference to just get it over with now.
So
It passed at the previous meeting. We went back on it just for the time. change.
this bylaw passed at the previous meeting?
The ordinance did.
Ordinance
The
did?
noise ordinance did.
Oh, the noise one. So the only real financial piece of this that I see is this significant change in the fines. So going from a $75 first offense to a $500 first offense?
I think the police chief put that on there. It lines up with state law.
Okay. Does anybody want to, do you guys, I mean, if it matches up with state law and it's a change in money, do you guys want to make a recommendation on this? Does anyone want to make a motion on this one? All right, so I think we'll just kind of pass this over for the chief to make a motion on this.
Okay.
What do we got? Article 12 is another police department bylaw for the solicitor's bylaw. I don't think there's any monetary issue in this.
That was, again, that was just the time change, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Article 13, stormwater, formation of a stormwater committee? Or committees?
So it's part of our stormwater compliance, we need to amend our existing stormwater bylaw to be consistent with what the EPA guidelines are, and that's what this is doing. We had Jeff Murray, who is still doing our stormwater reporting, which is a regulatory thing that we have to do every year.
Yep.
Go to a class on this and work with area towns so that they're consistent with other area towns and with the EPA's guidelines. And it just establishes rules and regulations around discharge into the stormwater system off of private lots.
All right, I do not see any financial issues in this. You guys okay with having the highway department make the motion on this? Unless you want to make a recommendation. Okay, just let the highway make their motion on that. What else we got here? Is that? I think that's it, other than, we have petitioner bylaws here, Article 14.
14 and 15 are citizen petitions. On this draft copy, the strike-throughs and changes, for some reason didn't come over on the draft, but Olivia's printed out the original petition so that if anybody wants to take a look at them again, we do have copies of them here. Generally, we refer these back to the petitioner.
So it looks. Let me make sure. That's the town administrative bylaw. Typically, the FAA doesn't make recommendations on petitioners' bylaws. So Article 14 is the town administrator, some changes there. Anybody want to make a motion on this? Like I say, typically we don't make motions on petitioners' bylaws stuff. I mean, anybody? Okay, so we'll let the petitioner make the motion on this. Another petitioner is Article 15. So I did, on this one here, there is a little bit that the FAA is involved. Obviously, the FAA's always had 2 appointments to this board. I did speak with the petitioner. It's a possibility. I kind of voiced my opinion on 74-3, which is the establishment of the personnel board, Section C. So we did talk about that. I believe he may amend that language. Basically, it says that if there isn't enough appointed members on that board, that the Board of Selectmen chair will be automatically on that board until it's appointed, and then the FAA chair, and then the moderator. So I think he's going to change the language just to have a quorum of their members appointed on that board. I'm not sure if he'll end up amending it, but he did mention that he would do that, so, or at least would potentially pull FAA off of that. Is anybody, again, it's a petitioner's article, we generally don't make recommendations on this again, so, but is there anybody want to make a motion on this, or we're gonna let the petitioner make his own motion, and, okay, all right, so bypass that, and think that's it for the warrant. The only other issue we'll bring up is what we want to do with the balance, or some of the balance of free cash. Does anybody want to make a motion to add another article to the warrant to deposit what we have in free cash, which right now we're estimating it's going to be 86,420, could be a little bit more, we don't know, we hope. But moving that into the stabilization account, anybody want to do that, or do we want to just leave it, since it's such a low sum of money, leaving it right where it is? And
I would probably leave it where it is,
Right.
unless we're gonna get significantly better.
yeah,
Things.
yeah, and Mr. Carmignani kind of explained that to
And if
us,
we're
and
not,
right,
then
just leave it where it is.
It's a lot of paperwork to move things from one account to another and get it back.
Right. All right, does anybody else have anything? All right, so we won't take that up, Mr. Administrator. All right, that's it for us, I think. But you got something else on the agenda for us?
We did it quite efficiently tonight. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you, FAA. Yay.
So,
Motion to adjourn the FAA meeting.
We can do that unless you have anything else for us? Any other business for us before we adjourn?
no, not yet.
Not yet.
Let's take the victory and do a lap.
Okay. All right, so you have a motion to adjourn FAA?
I
All right, second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, adjourned.
Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Chairman, next I would ask if the Board of Selectmen would take a look at the articles, Article 10, 11, 12, and 13, and maybe vote their recommendations, and then
Did you want this?
14 and 15, I would assume that the motion is going to be to refer to the petitioner. And then I was hoping that if there's no more discussion on the warrant, the board could vote to approve the warrant, the draft warrant with, as you, like they usually do, post it by the deadline. The only thing I would ask is if we could do the similar motion that we do every year and give me the ability, if there's any changes by legal counsel to the articles, not changing the substance of the meaning of the articles, just the legal verbiage in the articles, give me the ability to do that before I post it, without having to have another meeting to make those changes.
So usually, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
usually in the past, what we've done is the chairman has run down if anyone had any questions and they put a flag or a hold up to discuss. But I don't know if we need that this year. I'm just thinking this is pretty cut and dry the way it is, isn't it?
Yes.
And we just need a motion, and I'm thinking we just need a motion with what Mr. Ruda had said attached to the acceptance. What's the verbiage for that you would like?
Motion, well, I just need a few articles that generally the Board of Selectmen make recommendations on. And then after that, for the overall warrant, I would like a motion to approve the October 21st, 2024 special town meeting warrant, and further provide the town administrator, on the advice of town council, to make any changes to the language included prior to posting, something along those lines.
So for some of these, you want independent motions, and then you want a motion for the entire piece.
So you need, the Board of Selectmen is right. The Board of Selectmen has to approve the warrant so I can post it. And then we just, there were a few items on here, item 11, 12, and 13, that the Board of Selectmen will probably have to make a recommendation on.
What about 10?
Which one is that?
I think the version you're looking at includes
St. Anthony Road.
Article 4.
Oh, yeah, St. Anthony Road as well.
So 10, 11, what was that, man?
Oh, sorry. I think the version that, the live version that we're looking at includes like a placeholder for moving money into stabilization. So the numbers are a little wonky.
Wonky.
I thought we pulled that off. I don't think we have that.
My drive may have also not
Yeah, I think
updated,
it may
so
not
could be that. But I know when Ann was asking the question earlier, my number was consistent with what she was looking at.
Maybe it just needed to be updated, because I think we did pull that off. It was probably Article 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through the chair, I will say that we did pull that off. If you're looking at 10/2/24 updated warrant, it's in the packet folder within the OneDrive. We did have a sync issue earlier today that affected my tablet and John's as well, so
Okay.
you might be going through that.
Yep.
I got the updated one, so you're right.
Perfect.
So, Mr. Rudy, you'd like specific motions for, and instead of numbers, I'll just say what it is. The St. Anthony's Road acceptance and the Police Department animal bylaw, those are the two you're looking specific for?
Yeah, and
Solicitors and stormwater.
solicitors.
And
as well,
solicitors.
And stormwater, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot to the animal control that's solicited. It's not close. I don't know how else to say it. It's not close with the numbers.
So,
Or you could refer it back to the police department or for either one of those. And the chief could speak better on it.
I don't want to sound, and this is just me thinking out loud, I mean, the St. Anthony Road acceptance, they've met the requirements. We're the highway commissioners, we should probably own that. But as far as the animal control and the solicitor's bylaw, I mean, I think we're all, I'm in favor of both, but I don't want to take anything away from the police chief to be able to explain the hows, whens, and whys, and why this is here. I don't want to, does that make sense what I just said? I hope it did.
But yeah, through the chair, I think all we need to do is have someone stand up and take some action on it. So even if the Board of Selectmen wants to defer to the police chief for more information, that's great.
There it is.
okay, then let's get the ball rolling for Article 10. Do I hear a motion to accept Article 10?
I make a motion to accept Article 10 as written.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. So with Article 11, we can always vote to accept this and refer to the chief for more information at the town meeting. Or we
Second.
could just,
So moved.
okay. Good.
Refer to police chief for more further information.
And we got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So voted. And for Article 12, we accept and refer to the chief for more information at the town meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. So Article 13, do we have a motion to accept Article 13 on the Stormwater Committee?
I make a
But-
motion, ooh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Right ahead.
Jeff Murray, who actually worked on this, will be at the town meeting. I'm gonna make sure he's there to explain it, so. This brings us into compliance. He's not here tonight. I didn't ask him to come, that's on me, but if you wanna refer it to him at the town meeting or take it on and motion to approve, it's completely up to you.
So one of the recommendations is to accept this, but refer to Jeff Murray at the town meeting to explain it to the people.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
So just so I'm clear on it, Board of Selectmen motion to accept, but also motion to accept, refer an explanation, refer to,
Jeff Murray to explain it to the town meeting.
all right. Okay.
Now, on 14 and 15, let's start with 14. Is there any motion to accept this or refer it to the petitioner?
I make a motion to refer to the petitioner on
Second.
Article 14.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any discussion? So voted. In Article 15, any motion to refer to the petitioner?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. So then I'd recommend, if the board wishes, the overall acceptance,
Approval.
overall approval of the draft, and approve the October 21st, 2024 special town meeting warrant. Giving the town administrator the ability to go with town council's advice without changing the meanings of any of the articles, but to make any appropriate legal changes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Is that good enough, town administrator?
I think so. Just so it's clear and transparent, the only changes that I would make would be on the advice of town council to the wording, not the purpose of the article or any of the amounts discussed here tonight. Everything would remain the same if the wording had to change while it's under legal review. Rather than have it on the meeting, we would make those changes without changing the purpose, intent, or math involved in any of the articles.
That's the intent of the motion and the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. Okay. Let me see. You have anything else, town administrator?
No.
Assistant town administrator?
Not tonight.
So we're going to number 5, board member commit comments. Mr. Sigonaj,
Nothing, not tonight.
Madam Clerk?
I don't have anything tonight.
Excellent. I want to say this was awesome. Did you want to hear from any department heads?
It's not if I want to hear, Mr. Chairman, it's because you want to hear.
Does the board want to hear from any department heads?
I think we should give them a siesta unless they have something they want to say.
Okay, unless you have something imperative, come up forward, talk. If not, then I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So voted.